Today on Mother Mayhem. You're looking for proof because just naming a feeling in your body doesn't feel like enough proof, but your body knows, Melanie. Your body knows. Listen to your body. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel true. That felt manipulative. The more you listen to your body, the more you tell your body that you already believe it, the easier it will become to believe your body. Welcome back to Mother Mayhem, the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast for daughters. I'm your host, Heather Gray, and today I want to talk to you about how you manage trauma when it feels so fresh, so raw, and so current, even though it's been 2 years since you've actually been in relationship with your narcissistic mother. Today, I want to introduce you to Melanie. Melanie's story is a little bit tricky, and she is in a world of hurt and confusion after a childhood that was simply riddled with abuse and abandonment. Her biological mom was an addict who lost custody of Melanie to Melanie's father. It's Melanie's stepmother who was her abuser, but her stepmother was also the one who stayed. Melanie's dad was often MIA, and Melanie's stepmother took care of Melanie despite her separation from Melanie's dad. You can see the perfect storm here, right? Melanie's stepmother may have been the abusive one, but she was also the only one who stayed. If not for Melanie's stepmother, Melanie would have been entirely alone in the world. Melanie's stepmother, of course, knew this, took advantage of this to keep Melanie tied to her. And as Melanie got older, her stepmother, if she felt threatened and reacted, would be switching from this place of wanting to be included in Melanie's life, or then switching to minimizing and ridiculing Melanie for her achievements. Now, Melanie's been no contact for 2 years now, but she's still struggling with understanding it all. And it seems like Melanie's stepmother is able to rent a lot of space in Melanie's head. I want to help Melanie untangle all of this so she can get clear on next steps. So here's Melanie. Hi, I would love to tell my story. I feel as though it's a little unique in the fact that she wasn't biologically my mother. So the added feelings of being a burden have saturated my soul. I have felt as if I was marinating in her bullshit for years, never being able to understand what this was or make sense of it. I had no name for what was happening. It just never felt right the older I got. I was 2 when I was put into my mother's life, a messy, complicated, dysfunctional mess. My wicked father had gotten custody of me, and bio mom was struggling with addiction. My mom was my earth angel, or so I thought. As I got into my young teenage years, I noticed a weird energy in the room when she was around, always afraid that I was being too sensitive. I constantly questioned her if she still loved me. After all, she wasn't my biological mom. She actually divorced my dad when I was 12, so I lived with her and my dad was just off. Basically, if I wanted to see him, I had needed to reach out. Like I said, she has this energy. It felt heavy. She used me to clean and keep the house tidy a lot, and basically, if I wanted to earn her little amount of love, I would clean and organize and make things easy for her, even though it was short-lived. She was very weird in ways that I can't even really say. It was more of a feeling. I had to seek help for my mental health because after feeling like a burden, life got really hard with all of the abandonment. She would take me to my appointments, and one day I asked for my copay. It was like $10, and she told me, I guess since you're fucking crazy, and something of that tune. It was literally the lowest I could ever feel, struggling with this darkness, seeking medical care. And then on top of it, I would end up worrying that she was upset with me because she had to pay and drive me to this appointment. I'd spend my entire appointment scared of what would come. I lived to please her. She would tell me to change my clothes around her boyfriend. She seemed to almost love and find enjoyment out of my hypochondria. And she would like to almost make us sick so that we needed her. It was odd. I always felt more loved when I was not well mentally or physically, or when I needed to depend on her financially. I got my first job and wanted to gain independence so badly, but it seemed that she was irritated about my job and she controlled my paychecks and monitored my spending. Mind you, I was 15. Why did I need to feel guilty that I bought something that I had worked hard for, like makeup or an outfit? Meanwhile, my brothers could smoke crack and she wouldn't question anything. As I got older and more independent, the wedge got bigger. She was mad at me that I moved back with my dad and I didn't stay to help raise the new baby that she had had at age 36. I was always made to feel like I was a hoe or nasty for being attention seeking. Once I left period blood on the toilet as a young teenager and she was so grossed out and called me a nasty hoe for leaving my blood there. She was just oddly critical of me. I married my high school sweetheart, and she wanted to be needed so badly for the wedding, and she wanted to help so much. I didn't ask for much, only a few things, and everything was just so extra and caused her to make me feel so weird. She would comment on money I would spend and ask how much the DJ was, and then when I told her, she would literally have a moment of displeasure and disgust. Meanwhile, I had never asked her for financial help. It really goes on and on with small comments that added up to me feeling really dysregulated. I got pregnant and I told her we were coming over to tell her something, and she said, "Oh, I thought you were either getting a divorce or pregnant." Mind you, we had just gotten married a month prior and were high school sweethearts that had been together for 13 years. She commented on my postpartum body with her friend. "How the hell did you get your body back so fast?" And it didn't sound like a compliment, more like a level of disgust. She wouldn't even take a look at my ring after we had gotten engaged, simply said, "Oh, I have a pretty one myself." And side note, I'm not one to brag. I shrink for her anytime I can, constantly shrinking so that she doesn't feel uncomfortable. I don't tell her things that I've accomplished or that I'm happy about. And if she finds out, she'll make a weird vibe about me not mentioning anything and ask why I kept her out of the loop. It's really confusing and I need your help in understanding. Like I said, she helped to raise me and I feel like I owe her. I've been no contact for about 2 years and the thought of being in the same room with her actually makes me physically sick. My body in the past would literally feel so ill and worked up for days or hours until I had to see her. I'm confused and I don't know how to gracefully say thank you, but fuck you. You made me question every breath I took, everything I did. If I dressed up my new baby, it was a comment, "Did you just have a baby to play dress up?" If my husband and I are going through a rough patch, she says, "Well, you can always live with me." Like, what the heck? I was so tired of reading the room and the energy and shrinking and making her feel special. I want to feel special. I want to be loved. It's my turn now. So here I am, confused. She would make comments when we split Thanksgiving with the in laws. She would leave halfway through to see my in laws because they're so special to us. And she'd say, "Oh, I see you need to go to the favorite parent's house." I wanted to say, "Yep, you're right. They are the favorite." It's like she had this weird grudge against me all the time, like a weird backhanded built up comment she had been dying to throw rocks. Meanwhile, I have friends who are in total disbelief that someone like myself would have this issue. I find love and care and compassion with strangers, friends, and people I've made my family. Sorry for rambling. I would just love some guidance. Thanks. Oh, Melanie, sweetheart, sweetheart. Okay, here goes. I hear the confusion, and it is clear to me that you are trying to unpack this childhood that has been marred with abandonment, addiction, mental illness, and abuse. Of course, you are feeling dysregulated and unsure. Of course, you are. Your situation and your story here is complicated and it's multi layered. Your mom's addiction and her inability to care for you make up a really important part of your story. So does your dad disappearing from the scene and leaving you with your stepmother. She ended up becoming the only person who stayed. So, of course, compared to your drug addicted biological mom and your absentee dad, you felt like you needed to be grateful for whatever crumbs she might have had to offer you. I want to be clear here, and I want you to hear me right in this moment, right out of the gate, that you are managing complicated grief at the very least. And likely you're managing some chronic PTSD as well. This is a lot. And if you are not already in therapy, my friend, I really urge you again to try with therapy. This podcast can't be a replacement for therapy, especially not when there's so many different pieces and factors to manage. So please, please do consider getting yourself some support in addition to this podcast if you don't already have it. However, there's a few places where I do think I might be able to help you get unstuck. And the first is a really important part of healing that I think will not just help you, but it's going to help everyone listening. And that's the concept of yes and. Right now, you're struggling with really and truly validating yourself that your mom was your abuser because she was also the only person who stayed. I think it's hard for you to wrap your mind around this, and I would be willing to bet that she's also programmed you a little bit to think of her in that way. So you feel dysregulated and disconnected from your body and your truth because you feel abused by the person who supposedly saved you. So, Melanie, two things can be true here. Honestly, more than two things can be true in most circumstances, and that's true for all of us. But here, it's true that your mom raised you when no one else was capable. And it is also true that she took full advantage of that by making you feel dependent on her and then belittling you for your dependence on her. It was a classic mindfuck, and I can see why you're caught up and confused. It's okay, though, to be grateful to the woman who stayed while acknowledging that she had some limitations herself that also caused you harm. She stayed when your mom and your dad were MIA, and she called you crazy when you were then affected by their absence. She measured the strength of your relationship with you by how much she knew about you, and then she used what she knew about you against you. She raised you up, Melanie, only to put you right back down again, usually lower than you were before you started. Of course, my friend, that is going to be and feel dysregulating. For you, healing is going to mean holding both things about your mom, the good with the bad, in equal measure. The hard parts, the abusive parts, they don't become less true, less abusive, or less impactful simply because she wasn't all bad or because she did some decent things. You're also struggling because there's a disconnect from what she told you versus what it felt like in your body. You're looking for proof because just naming a feeling in your body doesn't feel like enough proof, but your body knows, Melanie. Your body knows. Listen to your body. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel true. That felt manipulative. The more you listen to your body, the more you tell your body that you already believe it, the easier it will become to believe your body. I sense a little bit now in your letter that you're in this bit of a fight with your body. You can't understand why it's reacting the way it is, so you're looking for more proof, more examples, and more stories. Then you're finding those stories and proof and are feeling more dysregulated instead of calm. You don't need more proof. You have enough with the examples that have risen to the top here. Chasing the stories and the incidents of proof can feel like the answer, and I get that. But I want to remind you of something that I've said on the show before. Trauma brain protects you sometimes by keeping some memories at bay and beyond your reach until you're able to manage them and are in a safe place to do so. It might not be safe in your body right now to be digging around for more proof, so it's important to start working on calming your body. I think at a time that feels so very charged for you, it is important that you work on some grounding techniques. I've mentioned this on the show before, but when we're talking about grounding techniques, we're talking about things that are connected to the five senses, things you can taste, smell, touch, hear, or feel. We want you calm in your body before you can process more trauma. Now, you heard me remind Kimmy in last week's episode to revisit the first 8 episodes of the show, and that's a reminder that I have for you as well. If all of this is spinning and you're struggling to make sense of it all, those first episodes of this podcast really are going to help you out. The next thing I want to encourage you to look at is the relationship you have right now with your younger self. It sounds like your mom really gave you her version of events and told you what was true. She made you need her, and then when you did, she abused you for it. She named it as a weakness and then used it against you. The memories that are swirling and getting tangled as they're rising to the top. So when memories do rise to the top, and again, we're not going around digging here, I want you to get curious. And I would encourage you and everyone else listening or struggling with this in some way to get out of your head and start considering journaling about the things that are coming to mind. What is it that you're remembering? How old are you in that memory? What did the little girl at that age think and feel? How did she interpret what was happening to her? What did she need? Did that need end up getting met? What did that leave her thinking and feeling about the world? You want to get to know your younger self, Melanie, so that you can be there for her in a way that no one else really was. Listen to her. Find out where it hurts. Ask her what she needs. You have been living your whole life with a story that your mom rescued you, and maybe she did, but also she made you feel pretty bad while she did it. Remember, two things can be true at the same time. Imagine for a moment someone drowning and the lifeguard rushing out to save the person. The lifeguard gets there and starts saving the person, but while saving them says, "How'd you get so far out? Why weren't you paying attention? How could you be so stupid? I can't believe I have to interrupt my day to fucking save you. Do you know what else I could have been doing with this time? Why are you so ungrateful?" Sure, the drowning victim may remember being saved, but the person is also going to remember what being saved felt like. See, two things can be true. Right now, Melanie, you are on a fact-finding mission and you are wanting to be seen and validated for all you have been through and how complicated your story is, and it is for sure complicated and hard. And I do hope you have a therapist helping you navigate all of this and organizing it for yourself. I also hope that you take a moment, more than a moment, several moments, lots of moments, to tell yourself this: I believe you. Your feelings are enough, Melanie. Not feeling right in your body with someone is reason enough to go no contact. I understand your struggle here. Your wise mind knows that she has been mean, manipulative, and abusive, but you also know she took care of you. You are using that information and creating a story that you were a burden. You see her taking you in when no one else would, as a reflection that she gave you more than she had, so that you have no choice but to only be grateful. That story, my friend, is paralyzing you. It's keeping you in this fight with yourself. because validating yourself and your experience feels like invalidating and disrespecting what she did do. You aren't a burden, Melanie. You're not too much. It sounds like your biological parents couldn't manage themselves, never mind a child. But your trauma brain has likely interpreted that to mean that you were too much and that you were too difficult. So you then have interpreted your mom taking you in as getting lucky. And I say that in air quotes, even though you can't see me doing that. You deserved so much more than you got, and so much more of your life hasn't been fair. I want to help you put a few of these pieces together. You've said how she used your story to get attention from others. You're also carrying a story that you were a burden. I want to put these two things side by side for a second so that you can see something here that is so very clear to me. Yes, we're thankful that she took you in, and that can stay true. But remember, yes, and yes, we're grateful for her taking you in, and it seems clear that she did so to fit her own narrative, to control what others thought of her and what she thought of herself. Anytime you didn't fit the picture she wanted, or anytime your existence became inconvenient to her, she abused you. You spoke in your letter often of feeling weird in your body, but not being able to name it. I think right here is why. On the surface, it seemed like she was doing a good thing for you. She took you in, but your body, it never felt good. Because how could it? She shamed you. She called you a whore. She implied in some weird way that you would entice her boyfriend if you dressed a certain way. None of those things add up to the picture of someone who took you in out of the goodness of their own heart. That's why it felt weird. And that's why you keep looking for more and more proof. Because despite the story, you had a drug addicted biological mother, you had a father who went MIA, and a stepmother who stayed even though she didn't have to. It never quite felt that way. This is why, Melanie, this is why your trauma brain, your body has been telling you the truth and warding you off against the lies and the false narratives. You can be grateful for what she did while acknowledging that she too was sorely limited. Yes, and you mention at the end of your letter that your people in your life now can't believe what you've lived through. Allow yourself to see yourself through their eyes and not your mom's. Also, here's an important part of your story that you have been tapping out from, and I think it could really help you in your healing. Right now, you feel all over the place. Memories and contradictory feelings are rising to the surface, and I heard you cry for your turn, a cry to be chosen, and a cry for love. I heard all of it, Melanie. But you know what else I heard? You did, my friend. You did. You felt weird in your body. You didn't like how you were spoken to. You didn't like how it felt. And so you went no contact. You had your own back. You had already been your own best friend. You've already listened to yourself. But there seems to be a disconnect from where you haven't quite connected head to heart, where you haven't quite owned this part as saving yourself. Your lens is still really focused on your mom saving you. But the story here is that when you needed saving again, you saved yourself. So you, Melanie, can trust yourself. You can trust you. You can believe you. You just have to take it a little bit easy. Go slow, catch up with yourself, and reintroduce yourself to yourself. You have a lot of the pieces that are on the table right now. You just haven't put them all together yet. And that's okay. And that makes sense to me. You make sense to me. Bring your inner child to the table. Show her the pieces. Introduce her to the people in your life today that have your back, who know what you deserved all along, and who stand up for you. Now, my friend, you do have a bit of work ahead of you, but it is so clear to me that you can do it. You are in a community of women around the world who are in this with you. And I am for sure, most definitely, in it with you too. Bye for now. I do hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you have a question you'd like me to consider for the show, please do email me over at heather@daughtersnpd.com. You are always welcome to share your story or questions by recording yourself using the voice app on your phone. For best recording quality, please do record directly into your phone without using headphones or Bluetooth speakers. We're building an incredible community as well over on Instagram, and I'd love to see you over there too. You can find us at Daughters NPD. Lastly, if you love what you've been hearing here on Mayhem and have found the show helpful in your own trauma recovery, please do consider becoming a Mother Mayhem sponsor by purchasing simple scripts for saying hard things. It's a resource I created that provides the right words for the hard conversations, and it covers life, love, and work. You'll find a link for that in the show notes. If you know another woman who needs this conversation in her life, please do share the show with her. Your reviews and social shares help spread the word, and I hope you'll consider doing so. Special thanks to Heather Clark for editing the show. She's in my head and knows what I meant to say when the words come out backwards. Thanks so much for your time today. As always, I'm in it with you. Bye for now.